guides like, oh, thank you. And that was during Elena's break in grad school. Of course, like many of us, they fell in love with the land, the waters, and the people, and they didn't want to leave. And they are water lovers, which is part of why they did this trip. Elena works for the Chilkat Indian Village, Klukwan, as the Director of Intergovernmental Affairs, and Nate is the Executive Director for Haines Hudson Trails. Here they are.
Okay. Sense. Sure. Hi, everyone. I'll make sure this works.
Thanks for being inside with us tonight. It's so beautiful outside, so thanks for sacrificing the beautiful evening to be with us and learn about the copper.
Yeah, so we did this trip early last August. We've been on the permit list for the Tot Alsek, that whole route. And so the copper is like I'd say relatively comparable, um, somewhat comparable trip that does not require a permit. And so it's a lot easier to do later and last minute. And let's see if it starts working. So we
Let's just pause for a second to go back to now I'm going the wrong way. How do I get back to the title? The heavyweight knee. Do you want to explain what you meant by this title? I got quite a few questions from community members by what we meant about the heavyweight. So, Nate.
Cindy told me I needed a title, and I was trying to think of something. And the reason we went with the heavyweight is that the easy and the lightweight to do the copper that a lot of people do is via pack raft, and you end in Cordova is on the milk run from Juneau to Anchorage, and you can just get off the river, get on Alaska Airlines flight, you're out of there. Super easy. The logistics are like 20 times easier in less time. And so we did not go that route. We went what we will call the heavy route and keep referencing back, which is rafting. And so it's fairly uncommon for non-commercial groups to raft it. Most of the non-commercial people that run it do it via pack raft. Some do it via raft, but it just adds a ton of headaches. And we'll go over that in the map in a sec. But Elena and I had not really left Southeast Alaska that much up through last year. We find we have so much to do here and that we have not really made it into the interior or anything. But in spring of 2024, I went on a 1 month fishing game assignment down here near Kayak Island, right at the base of the Bering Glacier, and studied shorebirds for a month. And so I got to work out there. This was my Gaia track. For 25 days straight, we would walk 5 to 10 miles in the silt, and we would look for these red knots, so a migratory shorebird, and we would try to spot them and take photos of these little tags that have three character things on it. And so I had spent about a month there and was working with all the local people and had heard all this buzz about the Copper River and had not known much about it. And then we flew over it on the way to and from. And so this is a photo, not necessarily the part we floated. This is a little closer to the ocean. But that was how we got the idea to do that trip.
And you all can see in this photo just how big it is compared to the Chilkat Valley. So, yeah, something we'll probably talk about throughout the talk is just the tributaries going into the copper are like the size of the Chilkat. So, a really different river to navigate.
Yeah, depending on the time of year with runoff, the Copper is like up to the top 5 to 9 most voluminous rivers in North America. So it's massive, even compared to our rivers around here. So that was how we got the idea of the Copper, and I had known we could pack raft it, but our friend Tom, pictured here, who had also guided a 2 summers ago in the Chilkat Valley, he ended up getting a guiding job in Valdez. And so when that happened, kind of last spring, we were like, oh, perfect. We are going to rope Tom into helping us do this rafting route instead of pack rafting.
Which we have definitely labeled the longest shuttle possible.
Longest shuttle, I think longest rafting shuttle in North America.
If
Yeah.
not, I don't think this trip is possible without his commitment to running this shuttle, which was about 30 hours over 30 hours of shuttling. So he had gotten on the ferry to or in Valdez, done the route to Cordova, had 6 hours in
Got there at 1 in
Cordova.
the morning,
Yep.
loaded back up on the ferry at 7 a.m. And the ferry was about 12 hours each way because it goes all the way, instead of just doing this route, it goes Valdez to Whittier to Cordova. And so,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
when we picked them up off the ferry, Tom and Lizzie, our two friends that we did it with, they had been on the ferry for 32 hours straight.
they're pretty
And this
tired.
was a fun they got off and they were going a little bit insane. So that was kind of funny to see. But yeah, this map kind of encompasses the whole route. And so we met them in Valdez. Valdez to Chitina, where we put in, is about a 2-hour drive. And so we grabbed them there. We loaded up the stuff that his boat and that stuff that he had left. And we went for it. Chitina is where we'll point out in a sec, but where a lot of the people who don't live in places in Alaska with salmon go to do all their personal use fishing. And so some of you may have been there before too to do the dip netting. They have like really extreme dip netting off the cliffs in the canyon. So
Oh yeah, so this is us
the start of the heavyway.
this is the night before we on the left packing up it at Tom's spot in Valdez. And one thing to point out, I think, in these photos, which is pretty incredible, is these yellow bags, this orange bag, this bag that goes over the top of our raft here is actually all bags that Nate custom made for this trip to fit in our boats and to fit within the raft pretty well. So there was a system to both boats that we continued to dial in over the course of the trip, but it was very, very helpful to have all of this gear put together ahead of time, and it was a pretty big lift from Nate ahead of going on the trip. That was really helpful.
We have a history. Elena works a fair amount more than me, and on most of our trips, she shows up and has no idea where we're going or what we're doing. And so, and in this case, Tom and Lizzie also kind of didn't really know where we were going or what we were doing for the most part. And so, yeah, it's kind of funny showing up with like, yeah. Yep.
Good shot.
So we drive to Chitina. We have all of our whole gear splay here, and it's definitely, you can see here, there's people have fish wheels up here, and then also that's like one of the jet boat put-ins that people go down river to the canyon. But I just remember like this photo gives you the feeling when you're hiking or doing anything and you like walk away from the car, it's like one feeling. But when you're rafting and doing a river trip, there's no like, oh crap, I forgot this, I'm going to turn around. Or so you get on the water and you are just have to go wherever the water goes. And so in this case, you get on, a bunch of people are looking at you like your non-commercial group and have all of our gear and are like, where the hell are they going? And yeah, that was the start. We did 106 river miles. So it's the start of that. And the river's already huge up there. Talk about the canyon. The canyon was a funny case because coming up to the canyon, I had hyped up like there's the canyon, and no one really knew like what the canyon was or everything, and so they were all really nervous. It's like it's just
pretty pretty anticlimactic. But on this first day, this is where we got to see a lot of people dip netting on the sides of the canyon. So not pictured here, but we would just be floating by. Some people didn't have their boats with them, and they were just, you'd look up and they'd be up on a rock and fishing. So I think for me personally, just really appreciating being able to get our fish here in this valley, and also learning about other ways that folks across Alaska are putting up their fish. So yeah, it was pretty cool to start floating and seeing that quite a ways down and passing by everybody.
August 9th, I think, August 8th, August 9th. It's always obviously a toss-up with weather around here, and we like completely lucked out. I almost think one reason is we like reverse jinxed ourselves because we brought dry suits, rubber rain gear, lightweight rain gear, and our other stuff. And so we had like every imaginable we were prepared for like 7 days of rain, which is like I think that area might even get more rain than here, especially when you get more coastal. So
Yeah.
yeah, started in the canyon. It's kind of crazy because the river's so huge, but it goes through like a tiny little area there. And then we pass that and we're out in the open and we're past like all the people. And so yeah, you immediately get to the point where you're surrounded right by the river with like 6 to 8,000 foot mountains literally right next door, and you'll see our camp. But you want to describe?
Oh yes. Nate is deemed the passenger princess on the trips that we go on. So he typically looks like this photo on the right. Um, as
Elena
Nate
loves
said,
to row and gets really grumpy if she's not the one rowing. And so I set up a bag as my little couch. I know you were laughing looking back through the photos. Like we brought multiple things of pub mix from Costco and Cheez-Its and stuff. Our friends have done a Costco run, and so I'm snacking or have snacks like accessible from the front seat on the boat, and almost every photo of the boat is visible. And this is another funny case of like sometimes when you're pack rafting for longer trips, you have like no gear, limited food, and everything. And this one was like we had
quite
like
the
a
opposite.
yeah 30-gallon tote of just snacks.
We had a
Catch out on.
one bucket full of bananas and apples that yeah, we spent a long time eating after the trip too. So
So that's the start day one. River moves super quick, like 7 to 12 miles per hour in the upper section, especially through the canyon. And so we did 30 river miles in like 4-ish hours, which even for yeah, on faster rivers is like a pretty extreme thing. And this, you can kind of see me like looking off, blank staring, not knowing what we're gonna do with all of our gear because this was our first unload, and so it's that. But
yeah,
it's like you get to camp and then you're like, oh man, what now with all this stuff?
that was one thing we definitely got good at taking our gear in and out of the boats. And one of the things that had also been made for our raft was this table here. So the platform that Nate was a passenger princess on also became one of our tables and was really helpful to have throughout the trip. Um, but yeah, as the days went on, we we figured out how to take our gear out of the boats quicker and move it to where it needed to go.
So this is just another view of camp number one. It was like another huge tributary that's probably the size of like the Klahini coming in. And we're at like 240 feet elevation here, and this is an 8,000 foot peak. So it's pretty extreme, kind of like around here of like, I had done the upper Alsec earlier in the summer and was kind of used to like the mountains up there are a little bit small, like in the 5 to 6,000 foot range. And so coming on here, I kind of had the expectation that the upper section would be a little bit more like dry and barren and like smaller mountains, kind of like when you get interior around here. But this one was like we got on the river and it was immediately huge peaks. And this was kind of our camp setup. We had bought an electric fence right before, and we were super glad we had it. So we went with the method of camping outside of the electric fence, way further away, but having all of our food and important gear in the electric fence. This was straight on to day two. The second day we only did about 7 miles. It's not gonna play. And there was a fair amount of a headwind, and this was like our one day we knew of the afternoon was going to have not great weather and a headwind. And on the river like the Copper, a headwind is just like the most frustrating thing ever because even that 7 miles, I think that day then took us like 2.5 or 3 hours. And it was one of those moments where like going 7 miles on a river this big, we had to be on the right side of the river basically from putting in until the end. There was no like, oh, our camp is only like a mile away. We got to like get over there now. It was like we had points where we were, yeah, miles out, making sure we could ferry over because there were points where the river was like over a mile wide up there. And so it would take you so long to ferry across. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to mention that we did. You can see here we saw some bears. We didn't see a ton, but we did have a bear get one of our buckets that first night.
Yeah, our groover set up. Luckily, no one had gone to the bathroom in it yet, but we woke up and just has like, we have a photo of it later in here, but just has like two bite marks in the lower part and two bite marks in the top of the toilet seat in our bucket. And so, yeah, it was a bear heavy trip. And luckily that was like our only real interaction. But this one I included because we set up camp in like a really sheltered spot that was like a common river camp here. And Elena's like napping in the back of that. Tom was napping by the river. Lizzie was napping in a tent, and the wind's coming upriver, and I was fishing. And luckily, I was fishing because like this right here was only like 100 yards to the left of this downriver and down or upwind. And so that bear came around the corner and would have like walked directly into this basically, but I was fishing and saw him and yelled for a second. It got up on its hind legs and then ran off. But we saw bears basically at every campsite. It's just like here where there are fish everywhere. Oh yeah, so a little map update. That was the first day, the 30-mile day. Then we get to the point in between here that was like only 7 miles, and we wake up for morning. I guess it would have been our second morning from here. We have a huge day ahead of us of trying to get all the way down here, which is like another 30-ish mile day, out into some pretty exposed areas, which you can, yeah, you know, point it on there. Yeah.
Use the pointer.
Yes. So yeah, so
that makes sense.
some Copper River background in the early 1900s to get to the copper and gold mining operations. They built a railroad from Cordova all the way to the interior. So like 100, yeah, to the Kennecott mine. It's like 150 miles at least. It would have been the section we did. So yeah, maybe up to 200 miles, but you can see the old section here, and up top in like crazy terrain, you can see the spots where like some of the old bridges and stuff have collapsed. And this photo is taken from down here, back up valley of that whole day 3.
That's still like cool. That is there a trail there on that old railroad?
It's so overgrown, like you can see it from up high, but like actually on it is just like complete alder mess. It's been
It's been abandoned for 90 years. Right?
yeah, the whole upper section.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so day 3, we had a pretty long day ahead of us, and right as our morning started, we knew some weather was coming in. I think up till that point, we had been feeling pretty blessed because we had prepared for pretty extreme weather, rain the whole time, but we so far had been lucking out. And you want to go to the next? Then we really caught a lot of rain.
Yeah, we had no rain like waking up when we pack up our boats fully, just as we have all of our tarps down and everything.
Yeah.
We put on. Yeah. And then it just is like straight storm and like really intense storm. Like we're right below the 8,000-foot peak at this point, and there is like active lightning hitting the peak, and there is like echoing thunder throughout the whole valley, and we're in like the tightest spot. So yeah.
We did pull over. We got off the water for a little bit. It started to lift. We got back on the water, and I think we were on the water probably for 5 hours total that day, and it lifted pretty quick. So
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. As quick as it started, it was just gone. All of
Yeah.
a sudden, like this photo, you can see it like it went from that to then like you've watched and you could feel the wind just like blow it away, and then turned into like the most beautiful day. So that was our one stint of rain. And our rain gear was about 3 hours long.
Yeah, and we came across this set of dunes, which we were expecting. This was a little bit after the storm. This day, I think, was the longest day of my life in not not in a bad way, but it just felt really, really. I think we all know what it feels like to have long days in the summer here, and we just got to experience so much that morning, starting with the storm, getting out of the storm. That part of the river is just so big, and the channels are so big. So it can take 45 minutes to ferry across just one channel. And yeah, we came up onto these dunes. We got out for probably 2 hours walking around, which was amazing. Looking at prints and got to see quite a few frogs, which was just amazing looking at their
This has been a really funny one. I've been walking alone and came across these just like tiny little like circles like this big. It's like, what kind of tracks are these? And I followed it for like a quarter mile and it was just this guy sitting here. Oh man. You'd come out in the rain. I could imagine you'd have a little less fun when it gets really dry out there, but
Yeah, there were quite a few, but that was amazing. And then we continued on past the dunes and we ended up at this beach for our uh third night. And let's see.
this was like the craziest place ever. Like it felt just so otherworldly because we had come from the crazy weather in the morning and then it was like 70 and sunny and not and like this many clouds in the sky. Like we'd come from there the day before, but we're all of a sudden like went from the rain gear you saw from the morning to then
We went
no
swimming.
shoes in shorts and we were like swimming in the river. It was yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. We ended up making a game of Polish horseshoes using our lid to our pot as our frisbee because we should have brought one and we didn't. But yeah, just truly the longest day ever. It was a really, really special way to end the day.
Yeah, and so this was the end of this is part of the beach. We were up just further here where another river came in and then see, we'll probably have them up in a sec, but this is the last section of river coming up before there's like one kind of known rapid right before the lake here. And so this is Miles Lake that we'll go to later, and then we end up going really far down this way. But this is another one of those spots where the river really thins, and then there's like one kind of rapid. We went right around the rapid. Oh yeah, perfect. So there's a map. So this was that night 3 camp. And then we come down into like, this is one of the craziest areas where you have this huge lake and you'll see the photos, but this is the Miles Glacier coming in and then the Childs Glacier coming in there. And so you're just surrounded at that point by some really wild scenery.
And well, do you want
Yeah.
to point out the $1 million bridge?
Yeah, so I'll have some photos later, but the $1 million bridge is like this bridge that crosses the river right here, right in front of the Child's Glacier, and you'll see, but the scale of the bridge is just absolutely dwarfed by the size of the.
And that was for the railroad.
Yeah, that was for the railroad, but then it got refurbished, and originally, until about 15 years ago, you could drive from Cordova to this point.
I've driven it.
You've driven it? Yeah. It's gorgeous. We have photos of it now because now it's abandoned. Like there's some fishing game operations around there with they do the sonar up there, but that's about it. Yeah, so leaving that point that we were at earlier, we come around to the corner and it's just like absolute gorgeous day coming down. This is the Childs, and you can kind of see the bridge right there in the bottom left corner, and we have another photo of that in a second too. But this was one of those moments where just like the scenery it got absolutely incredible very quickly.
It's pretty windy too.
Yeah. And yeah, we get to camp number 4.
Which, yeah, I do we have a photo of where what we were actually?
So this was one of the spots where like I didn't going into the trip and doing trip planning, like didn't really know where to camp. And so it was kind of like a get there and see what's up kind of scenario. And so we ended up just going river left and ending like right over here on the sides. Right over here where it's just like kind of glacial outwash. And we picked a relatively low spot. We'll get to that in a sec. But yeah, so we set up an awesome camp. Get the boats up, yada yada. Party commences. We're super pumped on the glacial lake. Yeah, we went straight to get some ice. Have a good whiskey on glacier ice is like a tradition that I'm sure anyone that's tried it, once you do it once, it's hard to stay away from. There's Elena with her thing of ice.
That was probably the coolest groover spot that I've ever had.
Oh yeah, so this is our
That's why that's
our true value groover. And you can barely see it here, but it's got the bare bite marks there. And then the other two bite marks are actually on the seat itself below the slit of the lid. So that was our this bucket was actually really nice. We salmon fished with it this year when we'd gill the fish and put them in there when it would fill up too much. Bloody salmon water would come pouring out of the bare holes. And it worked pretty well.
Yeah, so we had some dinner.
This was just another example of why it's fun to do a rafting trip sometimes instead of pack rafting. Like we were out in the most gorgeous location and we had like fresh avocados and halibut and tacos.
That's for the heavy part.
Exactly.
Yeah, when it's
Exactly.
super worth it when you're out there and you're eating like a huge luxury meal.
I think Nate actually gained weight on that trip because he was just sitting eating a lot of the time.
Relaxing.
I loved it. I was so happy.
Oh yeah, and so this is our video. So we're sitting at the fire, and
Well, before that happens, I think while we were at the fire, I had said to everybody, I'm just not sure about our spot. You know, like talking it out loud, I feel like something could, if there's some calving, this could not be a great spot. Are we okay? And Nate and Tom were like, oh yeah, it's fine. We have nothing to worry about. And I was like, okay. I mean, I did not agree with them, but I did not. I was, and I also saved the day. So
yeah, so we'll be really quiet. This is some funny. The boats are tied down well, right? And I go, yeah. Yeah, and luckily the boats had been tied down well to a massive boulder, but our PFDs were not tied to our boats and they were all tied to each other. And like probably 2 minutes after that, we're still sitting like, whoa, that was so cool. This like lasted for multiple minutes. And then after it, like, oh, that was so cool. And the video zoomed in, so you can't tell, but it's like a few miles away from us still. And then the surf wave comes in and we're on like a point and the glacier's over here. And then the lake wraps around to the backside where our boats are. And we just watch this like 5 to 8 foot surf wave come around the whole corner and it's like perfectly breaking and wraps all the way around to the boats and all of a sudden our boats which are tied on are floating and our PFDs get like picked up, brought in and then start like whipping out and all four of us are just like full speed sprinting like they're trying to. I just jump in the boats and I sit there and like, okay, what do I do now? And I like look over and Elena is just like full speed running through like waist deep silt water after our PFDs as they get dragged along. And she got them.
and we got them. Yeah. Yeah. So that was pretty.
It's a good lesson.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was okay. Yeah.
Have you ever been to you say it's closed now, the site that's just across the river?
The campground. Or is
The
that
campground across the-
Oh yes. We have
Got
some
that in a
pictures
sec.
for you.
But you read the sign there about the wave.
Yeah, well, that
So
was
that's
the
after.
day after this.
Yeah, this is upstream.
They don't put the warning signs out here.
Yes, I think we have a photo of the warning sign.
Yeah. Oh, so I had drone photos of the before. So this is the day we got there. Or this is like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you can see there's like this tiny bit of ice, and this is this is 1.8 miles wide here. And then you can see after the calving event how much ice came down. So basically like the whole, like that video is just one snippet of like a multi-minute, very large event where we were sitting at the fire like, oh, this is crazy. Yep, that was fun. And so the next day we put in, Elena was mad. I tend to like do a good job packing, but then my anxiety gets to me when we're about done packing and I slow down a lot and I walk around aimlessly, like trying to think about all this stuff.
a situation outside of trips. Nate is always rushing me out the door.
And then Elena glows up.
And then he's like 5 minutes behind me. So
So Elena in this photo actually was mad at me and got in the boat and started rowing away. And I sent this photo in this is a Rocky Mountain Raft, is the brand, and we won $1,000 gift card from the photo contest. So yeah, so that was happy, but yeah. So Elena comes back, picks me up when she was convinced to. Or actually, I might have just gotten Tom and Lizzie's boat. They just rowed me to Elena. I'll cover this. This is one of my favorite photos from the trip of just looking back the other way after we left camp, and you can just see the like breadth of the Miles Glacier there. It's like, yeah, one of those scenes where you're just like, what looking at? What are we doing out here? Oh yeah, and so just with this glacier, I just thought it was cool looking at a map. You can basically get on the ice here all the way. Those ones, and you can get, this is where we were, yeah. And you can get on ice there, and if you wanted to, you could traverse on snow and ice all the way to the Alsec. Base down here is like through the St. Elias range. And so it's just kind of a funny perspective. Like you're about 350-ish miles from Haines on the river there, and 230 of it is glacier in this one stretch. And so I just think that's cool perspective, like the Alsec. Yep, just all the way. The copper is the next drainage after the Alsec from the interior, which is really crazy to just think about that scale. Just another shot of us on the lake. Oh, so yeah, for a good perspective, you want to point out where we were on the.
Yep.
We were over here camping on a very low level gravel path.
yeah.
Yep. In hindsight, some would consider dangerous, but we had a great time. This is a drone, yeah.
Some would say dangerous, they would say suicidal.
This is a shot of the bridge in comparison. So this is like looking the other direction compared to the last photo. And this is a massive bridge. Like this alone is like 100-something feet just off the water. And you have this frame but that's like the size of the Childs, and the river goes right around here, right at the base. So.
But isn't there one section that's fallen in?
Different section of bridge.
Okay.
Down, way further down.
Okay.
No, they fixed that one.
Okay.
There's one now that's fallen in. Yeah, so this is another reference photo. So the road would go, do you want to do it with the arrow? The road would go from here, which is where you end up ending. You can see it go all the way out here. This is the section that's collapsed now, so you can't drive there anymore, but the road went all the way up. And that's where they stopped doing it, and that's where the bridge was. So this used to be like a drive-in, like massive campground, amenities, all kinds of stuff. And we had watched one plain land. There's a gravel strip over here where they do the fishing game stuff. We watched one plain land, and that was it.
And we had seen 2 pack raptors since we started. After we passed all the folks fishing, we had only seen 2 pack raptors. And then we got to
so this is it.
Yes, this is
this is the one. Yeah, so this is right across. So basically you like take these old Forest Service, like this used to be a road you could drive on, and it's just completely grown over now. And this is the Child's Glacier, and you can walk up like right to the edge, and you're looking right across the river. And then there are these signs about how in 1993 a 30-foot wave came up over the campground. And that's like a 30-foot wave, and river level is at negative 10 feet. So like it was 30 feet above land, which was 40 feet above the river below. And so some pretty wild calving.
I don't think we have a picture of this, but for folks who have been to this campground, you may know of the bench that just overlooks the Child's Glacier. And we kind of forgot that the pilot was going to be there. And so the 4 of us were just sitting there eating our lunch on the bench. And he had flown in with his partner and went to go get water. And
no idea
he
we were
looked
there.
up and saw us and was like, "Whoa, hello."
You
So
started like using there's got like an old pump, like super rusty water, and we were like eating and talking. We were like, nah. We're like, what the hell? Like felt like out of a scene from Walking Dead because like it's so abandoned around there. And then turn around and this Swiss guy just like looks up and sees us at the same time we see him. Like, and yeah, he was super excited. He's like, "We got 2 boxes of wine. You should stay here for the night. We're just gonna camp." And they're all the old signage is there of like where you can and can't camp and everything. And they're just like they set their tent up like on an old viewing platform, which is just pretty funny to see in like a no camping everywhere zone. And this is another funny example, just of a sign like now had like 15 to 20 foot alders in front of it. From 10 years ago. So super funny just walking around and like seeing parking lot and a full like tourist visitor center, but that had been completely overtaken.
yeah, and there were just amazing berries around. The biggest berries, salmon berries I've ever seen. But that is not the photo with the biggest one that I found that day. But I just am typically, yeah, lagging behind, just eating while everybody's walking back to the boat. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
So yeah, we stopped there for lunch and then back on the river. And this is like the river going up to the Childs Glacier. And so the glacial wall there, I think, is like 300 feet. Tom insisted on pack rafting this part, so that I could get a cool photo of him pack rafting at it. I think is why I did it. But yeah, it was a fun, and there's like most of the river is pretty easy to like avoid all this, but there's also this massive section of river that just goes in and creates this like gnarly swirling eddy full of ice chunks and just keeps like carving off more huge chunks of this. And then you raft by it and it's like relatively calm, like some waves and stuff, but not a rapid. But then there's like massive icebergs at that point floating next to you and like getting stuck in the silt and stuff. So that part was a little hairy. And yeah, and I guess one thing to mention too is back up at the first campsite we were at, like seals come all the way up, like over 100 miles in here. And so I had actually at the first camp made a comment like, "Oh, there's also seals, like we should look out for that." And a seal popped up with a sockeye in an eddy, like literally like 30 yards in front of our area, 100 miles from the ocean. It's like, it's a
Maybe offer to
surprise.
share.
Yeah, yeah. We were hopeful.
Yeah.
And it like, yeah,
It
it hooks
bends.
off. So like you're not getting sucked at that area,
Yeah.
but you could paddle over there if you wanted to and go like right into that.
What would you do if you're in there, like,
Eat.
just
That was personally why I was a little bit nervous that Tom was in the pack. I mean, not that we're any more safe in the raft, but yeah, I mean, it was part of I think the risk of the trip. Trying to stay close together, but yeah, there was nothing we really could do.
You got to get by that section. So
Mhm.
after you pass that, you get into some more open areas. We took like a channel. It was funny being on such a big river. We got onto like a chilcat sized channel. We're like, what is this? Little like this little pool drop area and stuff. And yeah, came across another bear. So we did end up seeing bears like within 1 mile of every camp.
Mhm.
Yeah, he swam right in front of us and then got out. He was very confused what and who we were. So this just like another perspective photo. So that's the Child's Glacier up there, and we took like this side route to make sure we got there. We'll look at the map. Oh, I guess this is a good spot to see. If you don't hit this side right channel right here, you're just like screwed. You can try to get out at the bridge there, but otherwise the main part of the river just goes straight to the ocean there. And so the takeout where we had the car was like you had to make this channel. And so we made sure after the Childs to get into this slower, smaller stuff right about here for our final night, which is the 5th night. Yeah, and I guess you can see the ocean. That is the ocean down there on this photo, and the old bridge goes there. So it widens out a lot. But yeah, there's a photo of it. So the purple line was our last day, and the tent there was our last camp.
In those smaller channels, it was really cool to be able to just see the salmon. They were, shallow enough we could just watch them go up. And so yeah, gosh, August not 14th, 13th, 12th. They're still going up, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and so that's our takeout point down there where the orange starts. Then we have the road back to Cordova. And so we finally get out, and Tom's car that he had left had been waiting there. And Tom at the beginning of the summer had he had driven up from the lower 48 and he had brought us a bunch of the stuff for our boat that's too expensive to get shipped up here. And he originally thought he might stay here and guide before going to Valdez. So we had him buy a trailer for us in Colorado. It was a nicer trailer. And I had bought this red skiff trailer from someone in Haines for like $300 2 years ago. And it had not been in great shape, but Tom needed a trailer for the summer. So I was like, take this. It'll probably get you to Valdez, like hopefully. And
we needed a trailer for
we needed a trailer for this trip. And so we get there, we put like way more weight than is supposed to go on. This is like made for probably like a little 10 or 12 foot skiff. And so it's extra long neck. So the weight is just like totally off. All the weight and we filled this up. We have like a bag at the end strapped to the top here. The car is full. It's like bottomed out on the rear shocks. And then we drive this road, which goes like 30 miles, dirt road with like crazy potholes to Cordova. And it's the next photo. We get to Cordova and we pull over, and the neck of the trailer has cracked to about the point where there is like a half-inch of metal left holding it on. And so we pull over in like the most populous part of downtown, and we just take our rafts off the trailer and we just like sit there, and we're like, well, we have the ferry at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning and we have to get these boats on. And like it was kind of like here where like if you saw something weird, like everyone probably pulls over and it's like, what are you doing here? And you guys look like you need help and aren't from here. And that was what happened. So we met, it felt like half of the town. Pulling over, and luckily Cordova, because it's such a big fishing community, has like a really big industrial welding shop. And so luckily we were able to call them, and they were kind of like here too, where like people got pretty excited. They were like, there are people who aren't from here who need help to leave. And we will get them the help they need. And so it was like people pulled over, called all their friends, and eventually we made it to the welding shop. And then like we were like, we don't want to pay a lot because we're not going to ever use this trailer again. We just
when you
like,
see this on Facebook Marketplace, don't
yeah,
buy it.
when I saw this, the trailer is back here and is looking for a new owner for parts. But so they just like welded like 4 pieces of steel, like 1/4-inch steel to it, and it ended up getting on the ferry. So we're like, we just need to get on the ferry. We don't even need it to get off the ferry. As long as we get to Valdez, like we'll figure it out in Valdez. But the ferry's at 6 a.m. So that was pretty eventful. I'm gonna go back to Tom. And then the last thing I'll say about that is we went out to like the brewery and the bar that night, and like everybody that saw us were like, are you the people who had like the raft trailer in the parking lot in the middle of town earlier? And you're like, yeah, that was us. So that was fun. A lot of people pack raft it, and private groups do raft it a fair amount, but like there are only like 5 or 6 commercial trips, I think, a year through there, like if they sell for rafting. And then so it's not a lot, like it's way less ALSEC taught trips than would come through here. Like, yeah, it's a way less rafted.
And meeting the folks at the brewery, they had pack rafted it, but they were like, you rafted it, so I
For
think
Haines,
it's
and you
just
brought
a little bit different. But yeah.
Yeah.
There's Tom. Yeah, I think
Soaking wet.
yeah. And I think we put this one in here because again, this trip probably is just not possible without your best friend being able to endure the long ferry ride and just have the stoke and commitment to want to see the trip through. So we were so grateful to be able to kind of take advantage of having a best friend in Valdez for the summer. We were kind of bummed that he wasn't here with us. And we were also really excited that him being there actually provided an opportunity for the 3 of us to do something special that we probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to do in the same way otherwise.
And the ferry was not, this is an important note, is not like the Kennecott or the Columbia, like a huge one. Like it's way smaller than the Hubbard even. And they on their way back on that trip, on the shuttle trip, like have videos of them, like a storm had come in and they were in the rain the whole time. And they have videos of them like standing at a 45-degree angle during a boat rocking. And so like it wasn't like, oh, you get to spend 32 hours on the ferry and it's great. It was like they were getting like thrown around. And that was us the next day when we made it on the ferry with our eye masks on. Yeah. Felt like a funny ending to the ending to the trip. Just passed out on there. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's all we got.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
I remember to like repeat it back so people on Zoom know.
Yes.
Sure.
And I'll see if anybody.
Sure.
Were there bugs?
No.
Oh,
No, there were not bugs. No, I fished that like one moment for a little bit, but oh,
did you fish?
uh, yes, we fished a little bit. I was kind of hesitant. It was kind of like we had brought frozen salmon for the last night and it had halibut, but it was also one of those things where like I didn't know if I really wanted to catch a fish because I didn't want all of the fish stuff smelling up and like splattering over all of our gear with how many bears there were. So I was like fishing for something to do that day. And then we didn't fish much more. It was so silted up too that yeah. And we had just got a bunch of salmon from here and it brought some salmon with us from here. So yeah.
You mentioned that there was a little bit of rapids
Hmm.
in one place, and then there was that question about that first canyon you went into that where the river really narrows down.
Mhm.
Did- How much rapids were it? Was it just a little bit of white water?
Yeah, it was like the question was how much whitewater was there and what was it like?
Yeah, I think it was really mild. We were expecting potentially to have more white water, and I mean there was maybe a wave train. It wasn't really
There were some like
eventful.
really gnarly features in some spots, but the river was so wide that like you could if you well, you could pretty easily just like avoid everything as long as you started rowing away from it early enough.
Yeah.
In the canyon, like the sketchiest stuff was like these huge eddy lines. It's like everything center channel tended to be pretty good.
Yeah.
And then the one main rapid, we were able to like get out and scout it plenty early and just had to like stay to the river right of it and everything was fine. I could see at different water levels that changing, but we didn't have to like actually hit anything at any point.
Yeah.
Elena was actually kind of mad at me for rowing around the bigger rapid. Like I thought we were gonna like maybe hit it a little bit, just not hit the meat of it. And I was like, sorry, I just didn't want to, yeah, mess anything up there. Yeah.
And civilized.
Mm.
That was over 50 years ago.
Yeah, a little different then.
Yep.
Nice, yeah.
Mhm.
It's crazy dip netting up there.
Sure, we just moved 50 years ago.
Mm.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the dip netting was crazy. A lot of people were roped up. They'd be like harnessed because then they'd be like leaning over and if you fell in. Yeah. Yeah, we saw a bunch of jet boats up there, but we also did not see any rafts. And so it was kind of fun passing them and knowing they weren't coming any further after us.
So did the take out at the same place, and if so, how do they get, if they don't have to run a big shuttle like that?
I was assuming they walk or like arrange a pickup ahead of time. That was like our thought. If we hadn't done that, we probably would have arranged to pick up from someone in town and just sent an in-reach message to them.
It's more the problem with the trailer and the weight.
Yeah, we need a trailer. Yeah,
Getting the shuttle.
right. Yeah, like we would have been able to get to town. It was like getting all of our gear and everything back would have been a lot harder.
Well, and we through Nate's actually fish and game stint had known some folks in Cordova, so we were able to have that support from
They drove the car out from the ferry terminal
Yeah,
all the way out there
which-
for us so that it was out of the takeout when we got there.
that was a really key piece and very helpful. But
Some
yeah.
people drive the road, like you could probably within like half a day you'd see like one or two cars, and one of them would probably be able to help you get back. You're like- we saw like one car way out there.
I was gonna say, yeah,
People like hunting fish out there, so
that's true, and we didn't. That was what Nate was saying, and we didn't see anybody for.
okay, yeah.
So,
The thought was there.
yeah, but I'm sure somebody would have gone out there.
I think that access bridge collapsed so that the campground was closed,
Yeah,
makes it a different world.
yeah,
When we were there 30 years ago, something like that. This was after the big wave, but only a couple of years, so people
Oh
were really
yeah.
nervous.
Yeah.
Careful about it.
And you look across at that wall,
Yeah.
yeah.
well, okay, not that far away.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not. It's
The
not.
river is narrow there.
It is. It's really narrow.
Any online, Matt?
See the middle section.
Yeah. Pretty middle section.
What kind of permit did you need? And were you required to bring the groover or you just did because?
No permit, and we were not required to bring the groover, but we brought it and we packed out our poop just
Well,
just cause.
yeah, everything, of
I guess
course.
everything. Just cause. Yeah, we were practicing. And a lot of the rafting groups do use the same, like similar campgrounds because they're all like at the same tributaries and stuff. So I'd also say one difference here of like being younger and thinking about the differences in technology. Like I was able to check one day before the trip, check live satellite imagery, and look at all of the incoming tributaries of what they looked like a day before we were there. So I screenshotted all those. So when we would like be coming up, I like knew where we needed to be on the river. Yeah, which is like cheating in comparison, but it's like when I had the tool, I was like, well, I should use it. And so that was very helpful, knowing like which campsites would be in and stuff.
Were you getting water out of Terry's?
Yeah. Yeah, most of our camps. We brought two big oh, how much water did you guys bring was the question. We brought two big 10 or 20 liter jugs, but we refilled a fair amount. We had a gravity filter with us, and so there was a lot of good water sources that didn't have silt in them, which was nice.
Yeah.
And we ended the trip with a surplus of snacks still remaining. Super nice. And a lot of the fruit we brought did not get eaten. So pub mix is just too good of an alternative. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone.
Forgot that we were online.